squashed dirt down so far.
Okay, so okay, so Jay, I've got Shantanu. Good morning. This is Jay here, and we were just actually discussing. So I want to at least have you be like you're part of this conversation here. So he's just discussing this area and the soil, and we were also talking about the plumbing and changing out the pipes. So Jay, meet Shantanu.
Hello, Shantanu.
Okay. So the soil over here, and the reason why it's tilted, this goes back to that property I told you about on Emory that we did. So what were your comments about that?
It's the same thing. A lot of the homes built in hilly areas are settled because the fill material that they put in the house for building consolidates, which means it just squashes the dirt down. And then over time it gets stable, because you can only consolidate so much. We're not dealing with the expansion in the clay soil that you normally have.
Mm-hmm.
That'll be on flat lands, but homes that are built in developments, they're on fill dirt, so you don't have the same properties that you have with expensive clay. You have fill dirt, and all it's going to do is squash. And you're on a hillside. It's 3 inches down the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And the house is tilted. And the difference in a tilt is that you don't get damage cosmetically with the tilt.
Yeah, that's why we don't see any cracks anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have one door that kind of swings a little bit like the front door, but other than that, I mean, the whole building is staying intact. It's just moved.
And there's a difference in expansive clay soil, or where you have an area of the home that has a 3-inch deflection that doesn't tilt. It'll bend like this, and that's where you get the break. But on a tilt, nothing breaks; it just leans. So we have the same issue here that I see lots of places.
Okay.
Now with the tilt, you're allowed, according to engineering guidelines, up to a 1% slope, which means 12 inches and 100 feet.
Mm-hmm.
This house is 3 inches and 30 feet, I would guess. So you're well within the tolerances for tilt. The reason they have a 1% tilt limit is that if you exceed 1% or over, then you're exceeding the ADA guidelines. But it's not considered a structural failure to have a tilt as opposed to a bending.
Okay. When a property like this, and it's at the age that it is, and what about the sewer lines, which is probably the cast iron?
Cast iron. Well, I do a lot of plumbing inspections. They're called tunnel inspections. I make sure the foundation's good after they replace the lines. Cast iron pipe. It's gotten to where they just take it out.
Mm-hmm. I think this is about 30 to 40 years old, so that's pretty much getting towards the end of its life anyway.
They quit. Yes, the shelf life on cast iron is 40 years, and they quit using cast iron in 1970, early 70s.
Okay.
So it's at least.
So will the tilt have any issues on that pipe, or?
It's probably already broke the pipe.
Okay.
In some areas.
Okay. All right. So
but it depends. I'm not sure where the lines are. It depends on where the clean out is. You have a bath over here.
Yeah,
there's a sink there, so you probably do have a diagonal line that goes out to the street, to the sewer. So I do suspect you have a line that's underneath the center of the slab.
Okay, and that connects to the building next behind us, so the duplex behind us, or the unit behind us. So this whole sewer line I'm going to have that inspected on Monday with a camera test instead of a hydrostatic test. We're going to do a camera, that way we can determine exactly how many breaks there are. But at the end of the day, it's replacing the whole sewer line.
Yeah, the problem with cast iron is that, and I see this. I'm out there with the plumbers. I don't do plumbing inspections, but I can't help but to talk to the plumbers. I'm just curious about the pipe. And they say they replace them because if they repair a cast iron pipe, it's so brittle that usually the bottom of it is paper thin. And if they're due to repair, it's just going to break 3 feet over. So you continually have breaks in the pipe. But it's also just totally disintegrated.
Right.
After 40 years. The shelf life is gone.
And that's what they call chasing pipe. Basically, you're just chasing repairs. So you just take out the whole thing. Now, what about those unions where you have the P-traps, like for the bathroom? It's best, those are probably cast iron as well. We want to get in there. And
Sometimes they are. They may be stainless steel.
Okay.
So they have to look at that. But
so would you suggest on that? I guess we'll talk to the plumber. I'm just you're for structural. So do we fix this tilt? And in doing so, if we're going to be doing tunneling for replacing the sewer line, how does the owner address the integrity for tunneling underneath the house?
Okay, tunneling does not normally affect the integrity of the slab. The structural performance is going to be the same whether they tunnel or not.
Okay, good to know.
They break out patches. They can either tunnel continuously from one end, or they can come inside and break out patches and then
connect. Yeah.
Connect
okay.
the tunnel between the patches.
Okay. Seen that before.
Now, as far as the house is not structurally defective because it's a tilt. It's not, nothing broke. And when it comes to leveling, well, you have a bid from Douglas, and he did a plan for leveling. And I would do the same plan if I was planning, if the owner wanted this house level. If the house had a 3-inch tilt, then I'd recommend piers to make the house level. But since we're dealing with the tilt, you have an option to leave it if you can live with the tilt, or
this
level
tilt.
it.
Okay, this tilt could have been here for how long?
Yeah, and then it depends on the owner what they want to do.
Okay.
If you're ever going to add on to this house, either vertically or horizontally, then that would be the time that you may want to fix, level the slab, because you can't build very well on a slab that's tilted.
Right, of course. Okay.
But for rental property, this house may not be here 10, 15 years. It may be sold or torn down. Something else may come in the area. So I'm not sure I'd put $20,000 in for
to level a tilted property. And this could have been tilted for how long? Who knows? 15, 20 years already?
Usually if the house, usually the tilt will occur within the early part of the life of the house in the first 10 years. I see that on brand new homes.
Right.
Where the owners are going after the builder, who's saying, well, they're supposed to deflect a little bit in expansive clay, but these houses are all sitting on the fill dirt.
On the fill dirt that they've pushed around to make the pads.
Yeah, they push it up there, roll a tractor over it,
right,
build a slab on it, and then it begins to...
Yeah, this wasn't flat. This is not a flat area. This whole neighborhood is kind of hilly and rolling. So they just created these pads and pushed in fill dirt
you
around.
have a 2 to 5% slope on this ground. And so the side of the house that has the greater amount of fill, which is the downhill side, it looks like you have about 3 foot of fill dirt as opposed to the uphill side where you have none. That's more stable, but then the thicker the fill, the more the house.
Okay, so we have your engineer's report. We can either decide to do foundation leveling. Would you do both interior and exterior piers?
To level, you would have to.
You'd have to. Okay.
You can't pick. The house is not stiff like a piece of metal. The slab is.
So you're just taking that whole plate and leveling it like you're showing.
The slab is not even as stiff as this cardboard. It's hard, but it's not stiff.
Okay.
It'll break 6 to 8 feet in.
So
if you try to pick up the outside edge, it'll break down the middle.
Yeah. So it all has to be picked up and leveled at one time.
Which is what Douglas has. And right, it's a good company. They have piers on the inside, so you can pick up the inside and outside at the same time.
Okay. Definitely going to do the plumbing, though. That's the one thing we need to do is exchange out that old cast iron. It's at the end of its life. We have the opportunity to do it. Let's do that.
Yeah. What happens? Water. It gets. You're actually chasing your tail because when you get plumbing leaks on consolidated dirt, then the plumbing is going to exasperate and enhance the settling of the filter. So it's going to move more with water.
Okay.
So the house right now, I would consider stable. If you have a plumbing leak, then the house is probably going to continue to move for the next 10 years downward in this tilt.
And it'll get worse. That you could even get to a place where it could actually break if it gets, especially if there's different degrees of moisture on the soil. Is that right?
And the reason is fill dirt. It's fill. So you put weight on the fill dirt, it's going to just squish down. If you put mixed water with it, like from a sewer leak, then it's going to squish down more.
Okay. Excellent, Jay. All right. I think you really covered it very well. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right.